This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
There's a new book that just came out. If you've been following our page, you know about it. It's called Jihadi Psychopath by Dr. Jamie Glazov. I will tell you, as an expert on Sharia, as a former child bride who has suffered and faced my own jihadi psychopath, I want you to go and order this book on Amazon.com or go to jamieglazov.com. Get a copy for yourself. You know why? Because you need to be equipped with the knowledge to fight our enemies so you can save your daughters and your granddaughters from future of Islam. They don't have to face what I did. Go to Amazon.com and order your copy of Jihadi Psychopath by Dr. Jamie Glazov.
Good evening. Welcome to the Jamie Glazov Moment. Tonight, Reza Aslan calls for violence. Reza Aslan tries to instigate violence against falsely accused high school student and wants to punch Dinesh D'Souza's face. Ladies and gentlemen, before I go further, this particular moment is credited to Robert Spencer's article at Front Page Magazine on this issue. Very profound and telling article about Reza Aslan, and I wanted to discuss this and follow up on it at my moment. So, my friends, Reza Aslan is back in the news again. This is a very interesting character. He's popping up much less recently, thank God. But he, on Twitter, called for violence against the falsely accused high school student. As we know, everything that happened with the Covington pro-life demonstration by the high school students there that were wearing the MAGA hats, and then everything that ensued in the media smears. We know that story. And then he also, Reza Aslan also wanted to punch Dinesh D'Souza's face. So what really happened there is we know about the media savaging of, as I said, of the pro-life Covington school students in D.C. as they were accosted by that very interesting group, the Black Hebrew Israelites, and of course that Native American activist who had approached and started banging on the drum, and we know how the media had misportrayed that. Now, after that happened, Aslan called for violence against the student that was most prominently featured by the establishment media in that story, in that standoff with the native Indian. Now, when Dinesh D'Souza called Aslan out on it, Aslan replied on Twitter that he also wanted to assault D'Souza. "I'd prefer to punch your face if that's a possibility, felon." This is the level of the left's debate. There's been no apology, there's been no retraction by Aslan after all the facts came out that, you know, the left was wrong and how it portrayed all of that. But this is just a very telling example here, just that he wants to punch D'Souza in the face. And this is, you know, this is fascist behavior. This is a Maoist Red Guard behavior. It's brown shirt behavior. And what's very interesting, I wanted to discuss a couple things, and Robert Spencer brings this up in his article at Front Page, that can you imagine if D'Souza had written the same thing to Aslan? You know, Spencer makes the great point that D'Souza would be banned from Twitter, but Aslan is not suspended, and he's just allowed to talk like that on Twitter. I wanted to, because of this, what it says about the left, but I wanted to narrow in a little bit on this Reza Aslan character, just to remind viewers about what the left really is, about what the unholy alliance is between the left and Islamic supremacism, and just for us to reflect on it a little bit. So who is this Reza Aslan character? He was fired by CNN, as we know, recently. He has advised, very interestingly enough, his readers in his last book, which is titled God, A Human History. He advised his readers to take the advice of Lucifer. Quote, "Take a lesson from Adam and Eve and eat the forbidden fruit. Do not fear God. You are God." I wonder how that's going to work for people. Wonder how that worked for Adam and Eve and what that meant for humanity. And I wonder what will happen to humans when they do not bow down to our Lord and consider themselves gods. Great advice, Reza Aslan. Now, Robert Spencer documents all of this in his article. I encourage everybody to go to Front Page Magazine, look up the archives, Robert Spencer, and it's one of his recent articles on Reza Aslan. You'll see it. Now, Robert Spencer documents this. Now, Aslan is a board member of the National Iranian American Council, NIAC. The NIAC has been established in court as a lobbying group for the Islamic Republic of Iran. Just reflect on that for a minute. You're not going to find out about these things on CNN and MSNBC, unfortunately. Don Lemon, Anderson Cooper, and Rachel Maddow are not going to have long features about this. Aslan remains popular with Muslim Brotherhood-linked groups in the United States. He has spoken at events sponsored by the MSA, the Muslim Students Association, which is a Muslim Brotherhood front group. He has also been at events and spoken at events co-sponsored by the LA chapter of the Hamas-linked Council of American Islamic Relations. That's CARE. So very, very interesting stuff. Reza Aslan has also claimed that, quote, the very first thing that Muhammad did was outlaw slavery, end of quote. Prophet Muhammad outlawed slavery. Is this true? Anybody that knows anything about Islam and about the Quran and about the Hadith, about Islamic history, about Islamic theology, knows that in fact Muhammad bought slaves, he took female captives as sex slaves, and he owned slaves until his death. This actually has something to do with slavery being practiced in the Islamic world by followers of the Islamic faith and the Islamic religion, or ideology, I should say. It has something to do with the fact that slavery continues till this day in Africa, where Muslim Arabs have black slaves till this day. In Mauritania, in Sudan, in Libya, in Nigeria, in Algeria. It's a horrible phenomenon. Again, you're not going to hear the establishment media talking about this. But who talks about it are people like heroes like Charles Jacobs at the organization Americans for Peace and Tolerance. Go there and get involved, because this hero in our modern world has been liberating black slaves in Africa from their Arab Islamic masters, and he continues to try to do that. What else has Reza Aslan done and said? Well, he's also lied about female genital mutilation. So on CNN a while back, he was arguing that FGM is not a Muslim problem. And he was saying how it's a Central African problem. And while he was talking about this Central African problem, he was mentioning Eritrea and Ethiopia. First thing, those countries are not in Central Africa, they're in East Africa. Now, more importantly, yes, we want to battle female genital mutilation, of course, everywhere, even where it is not practiced by Muslims. Absolutely. We want to protect girls everywhere from this. But why can't we protect Muslim girls from female genital mutilation? And the only way we're going to do that is if we tell the truth and acknowledge the truth of that this is a Muslim problem. But on CNN, Aslan claimed that nowhere in Muslim majority states is female genital mutilation an issue. Now, that is a lie. It is completely false. And it's very important to call this out. In the Hadiths, for instance, in the reliance of the traveler, female genital mutilation is mandated. And because of that, Muslims today are the principal and the largest group that practice FGM. Female genital mutilation is widespread in Egypt, in Iraqi Kurdistan, in Somalia, in Sudan, in Mauritania, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in parts of the Muslim parts of India. Now, these countries, let me just make this point. The countries that I just mentioned, they share little in culture and language and climate. So what is the common denominator? We have our answer. Because the muftis and the clerics and the imams always point to the teachings that are in the Hadith and also the reliance of the traveler, which is the classical manual of Sharia law endorsed by Al-Azhar University, which is the most prominent Sunni institution in the world. There's a huge problem of female genital mutilation in Britain because the Muslims in Britain have brought it there and also practice it there. Today, 500,000 Muslim girls are at risk and targeted right here in the United States by female genital mutilation. At the Glazov Gang, we're really trying to do something about that. We're trying to bring awareness to that. We want to protect these Muslim girls. One of the very most prominent and heroic organizations today here in the United States is led by Elizabeth Ure. It's called nfgmtoday.com. Please go to nfgmtoday.com that Elizabeth Ure leads. They're really trying to make efforts to protect Muslim girls here in the United States and, of course, all over the world. But let me see. I wonder who's in their way. The left. And, of course, arguments and lies that are spread by people like Reza Aslan. I want to end with this. Another very interesting story about Reza Aslan that has remained with me because this is very much part of our goal, our fight, what we're trying to do with the Glazov Gang, because we care about Muslim women, we care about Muslim girls, and we care about the victims of honor killings throughout the world, which happens in the Islamic world very often. There was a young lady by the name of Shaima Alawadi, a Muslim lady, and she was murdered here in the United States in March 2012. The media first painted this as an anti-Muslim racist murder, like some kind of a hate crime. And there was a big Facebook campaign for Shaima after that. You know, there was some kind of, Timothy McVeigh's cousin or something. That's how they painted it. Just some white racist, probably, somebody that, supports the Republican Party, And that's how, the talk was, and that's the propaganda that was spread. And guess what? There was this big campaign, 1 million hijabs for Shaima Alawadi was started on Facebook. Oh, so much noise was being made about this because this note was left by Shaima about something to do with go back where you came from or something like that, but it turned out that it was planted there. And, the left is just up in arms. They care about Shaima Alawadi so much. 1 million hijabs for Shaima Alawadi campaign. And then it turns out that this was an honor killing. That actually Shaima's husband, Qasim Alamidi, had killed her. And guess what? When this was found out, the entire campaign just ended. It was just over. All of those people that were screaming on behalf of Shaima just fell silent. You see, because if Shaima Alawadi was killed by, a white Republican racist, then everybody cares about her. But if she died by an honor killing, to the left, her life doesn't matter because everything is an agenda to them. So once it was found out that it was her husband and an honor killing, all the noise stopped and the campaign died. Nobody talked about it anymore. The husband was later convicted of this. And very interesting what the left makes noise about and what it doesn't. But anyway, Reza Aslan showed up at that time. And he was really busy on Twitter. And guess what he was doing in regards to Shaima Alawadi? He was pouring out on Twitter his venomous contempt towards Robert Spencer and Pamela Geller, implying somehow that they were the real villains. That overall theme that their Islamophobia had caused all of this. But then the truth came out, and he never apologized. He never apologized to Robert and Pamela. He never even addressed what had really happened with that honor killing, or even with the problem of honor killings throughout the world. And that's a shame. That's very, very shameful. That's another story about Reza Aslan. Let me just say that at the Glazov Gang, we care very much about honor killings. And there's a big problem because in the Reliance of the Traveler, for instance, which I mentioned earlier, the Reliance of the Traveler allows Muslim parents to kill their children if they disgrace Islam and et cetera, but it allows it. And that's one of the problems that needs to be addressed. That's something that all people who care about human rights and women's rights and little girls' rights have to stand up for him, because young women have the right to live. Young girls like Aksa Parvez had a right to live. She was a 16-year-old girl that didn't want to wear the hijab in Canada and was suffocated by that hijab by her father and her brother back in 2008. And we care about Aksa Parvez, and she represents millions of Muslim women that suffer under Islamic gender apartheid, whether it's forced veiling or child marriage or forced segregation or forced veiling, acid attacks, honor killings. We care. Robert Spencer cares. Pamela Geller cares. Annie Cyrus cares. But it's people like Reza Aslan that turn their back. They turn their backs, their callous backs, on the suffering of Muslim women and girls behind the Islamic curtain. And that's a shame. That's a real shame. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this character today, Reza Aslan, and everything that he represents. And now he's on Twitter. You know, he really thinks that, you know, that Covington High School student needs a punch in the face, and he wants to punch Dinesh D'Souza in the face, and he gets to stay on Twitter. My friends, I discuss this issue in my book, Jihadist Psychopath. I discuss why this is happening, how it's happening, why people, you know, just this phenomena of the left and how it's promoting violence, and why it makes excuses for Islamic gender apartheid, for Islamic terrorism, and how this all works. Get my book and you'll understand the behavior of Reza Aslan much better, and also why the establishment media gives him a pass. I'm also speaking about my book on February 6th at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Now that's going to be an on-the-edge-of-your-seat thriller. Please try to make it. Beverly Hills Hotel on February 6th. It's the Wednesday morning club event by the David Horowitz Freedom Center. You got to be there. Please encourage everybody to be there. And go to jamieglazov.com and register. The announcement is right on top of the homepage. And everything that I'll be discussing is an unveiling and an expose on everything I discussed on this moment just now about characters like Reza Aslan and everything they represent. See you soon. Good night.